All right, are we live? All right. You see the Cubs blue on the banner? It means you know what time it is. It is Cubfidential. More late night Cubs coverage. We got a pretty decent week to cover, but it's fire talk always. I'm your producer Denzel Snipes, and I want to bring in our host. Um, he's newly retired. He's kind of hoping his Knicks will close out this game on TV, but he's definitely here to host some Cubs talk. So let's bring him on in here. The Brooklyn bad boy himself, who now resides in Chicago, JB Ellis.
Denzel. You're killing me here. The Knicks. I'm a net fan. You keep forgetting that. Who cares about the
Oh,
Knicks?
now we're switching. Now we're switching teams. Come
I've
on, you
always been.
better than that.
I'm a net fan. I've always been. Brooklyn
You hate
Nets.
the Nets. You hate the Nets.
No, I don't hate the Nets. Let's not go there. Now, the Knicks, on the other hand, I can't believe that they're allowing this to be a game. But speaking of game, excuse me. Speaking of games, let's bring in our friend over from the South Florida Tribune. Let's talk about the weekend series against the Marlins. Let's get right to it. Let's not waste time tonight.
Well,
Well,
really, way I look at it is judging by the attendance figures. Yeah, the Cubs were able to take two or three from Miami, and the one that Miami did end up winning went 14 innings. And the Cubs fans had an opportunity to see reigning Cy Young Award winner Sandy Alcantara, who went out there and ended up pitching eight and a thirds innings and gave up 2 runs, 9 Ks, and didn't walk anybody. In a game that was decided, obviously, in 14 innings, Miami wins at 5-4. But when you really want to compare and contrast this past week, JB, the only thing that I could really think that stands out with this thing are the attendance figures in both venues. Ready for this? Let's recap it a little bit when they were in Miami. On Friday, April 28th, 12,340 showed up, and Miami wins 3-2 over the Cubs. Saturday, April 29th, Miami 7-6, 14,994. I don't care about the NFL draft, big deal. That had no bearing on this. And Sunday, April 30th, well, actually, Miami brought in 20,345, and that'll probably go down as one of their bigger crowds of the year, winning 4-3. Let's dial it up a week later. And you want to know why Chicago's such a great town, regardless of what the opponent is, they're going to pack them at Wrigley, right, JB? So,
always.
so let's go. Friday, May 5th, Cubs 4-1 over Miami. 31,181 fans over at Wrigley on a Friday night. All right, let's take the narrative to Saturday, May 6th. Cubs 4, Marlins 2, 36,418. Not bad, right? But guess what? It gets better on Sunday. Marlins win, no big deal. Cubs winners at the gate, 38,196. Now, I don't need to tell you and pretend that I'm a math major, but for the Miami 3-game series, you're talking 47,679 fans attended all 3 games. What about the Cubs? How about this? 805,795. The difference of 58,116 fans between the two cities over a 3-game stretch. What does that tell you?
So, Scott, question for you on that. Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, Miami to me is kind of like LA. When you're winning, everybody shows up. The fans are laid back. There's so many other things to do. The weather's usually always nice. Is it sustainable to have the Marlins in Miami with attendance figures like that?
Well, that's a great question. And I'll tell you what, had they have built this stadium near Joe Robbie Stadium, Hard Rock Stadium, I think it would have been all right. But the problem was they couldn't reach a deal there, and they ended up building this new facility on the site of the old Orange Bowl in Little Havana with no entertainment district around. So, do I think it's sustainable? Well, I don't think they're going to be going anywhere. You just have to hope and pray that what you said is true. They win or they don't support, that you can get 25, 30,000 fans in that building. So, I think it is sustainable to a certain extent, but boy, did they really placed that venue in the wrong spot. Jeffrey Loria fleeced the city of Miami with the deal that they had. They charged $20 to $30 for parking. And and it doesn't
Wow.
help that the product hasn't been good on the field either.
Hang on, it's only
Derek
$20 to
Jeter
$30 to park.
What's that?
It's only $20 or $30 to park. That sounds like a bargain. If you ever drive to Wrigley, just bring your Volt with you.
Oh, okay, no problem. I'll take your word for it. But yeah, Derek Jeter left for a reason. Don Mattingly, Skip Schumacher is a relatively unknown commodity. I'm looking forward to meeting him. I've never met the new manager yet, circumstances being what they are, but it's inevitable I will. So, I believe the team can average 20 to 25,000. For them, it would be good. And if they really become super, then maybe I could see 30,000 in there. Heck, for the Cubs, we saw 20,000 in there to begin with, which is good for them. They've run in 18,000 in plus for Shohei Ohtani, the biggest draw in Major League Baseball a year ago, JB. How often do you see Shohei? Well, not in these parts, not very often. So I want to say that it can be, but, I still will go back to what I've been saying all along. They did not build that stadium, JB, in the right place. You want to make sure you have they were gambling on the Latin community in Little Havana to support this team. And we know that the crowds were packed in for the World Baseball Classic, so it's not like they can't fill the facility if you get the right type of competitive international baseball. But the Miami Marlins are not, international baseball. If you ever went to their Zoom conferences, I will say, being a guy that doesn't know anything about Spanish, they had a translator. They used to ask the questions in Spanish and then English. And what was the fact that I'm not bilingual, there might have been some great questions that I couldn't understand. So, I wish that I could say it's sustainable, but I'm not very confident in that. And think about it, they've only been to the playoffs 3 times in their history, albeit they won 2 championships. So,
see, and on the other end, Wrigley Field's been around forever. It's a historic ballpark, and people want to go. Everyone says I want to go to Wrigley at least one time in my life. So you not only have your regular fans that are in Chicago. Before I was here, I actually traveled out to Chicago years ago. I took my dad when I had the chance, to make sure he got to see it. So you have that, which inflates the attendance because everybody wants to go there. So, you look at last year where the Cubs didn't have a really good team, you still get good attendance. So that's why I wonder how Miami, because they have some great young pitching.
yeah.
They got Chaz Chisholm, who's an exciting player. But I just don't see how it's sustainable to have a team with 12 to 15,000 people going a night. How you expect your owner to put money into the team when you have so many nice parts there?
Well, who's to say he's putting money into the team in the first place? Don't you think Derek Jeter told him to spend a few bucks? When you have an opportunity to get Nick Castellanos and you settle for Avisel Garcia, and Castellanos is a local kid, I believe, from Broward County, then that was where Derek Jeter got fed up and decided to get out of it when he could. So, Nick Castellanos, I'm not saying he would have been a big, huge signing, but he's a local kid, and he's the type of guy that could easily swing for the fences. I can't say Avisel Garcia is a real hitting machine either. I think he's been a disappointment for that matter. Yeah, Jazz Chisholm is a very dynamic player. He can steal bases, he can hit home runs, and he's a colorful personality. And you need people like that around. So, they draft well and they develop, but the question is I haven't seen a number retired over at Marlins Park at all. And part of a great organization is have at least 1 or 2 numbers retired. I think the last one they had was Carl Barger, who was one of the original executives, but then they took it down and they unretired it. Now they don't have any retired numbers. So, there isn't a lot of tradition. Yes, Miguel Cabrera started his career here. Giancarlo Stanton played here, and unfortunately Jose Fernandez's career ended prematurely. So because of an unfortunate boating accident. So it's been hard, but they haven't been able to win. But to their credit, at least they have as many championships as Miami Dolphins. They have 2. Okay.
Well, I mean, they're still a young team. When you look at the history of the Marlins, what are they, 30-something years old at this point, if that much?
Yeah, something like that.
So I can understand not having numbers retired. They're still building, and they don't keep their guys because they don't invest in players. Can you blame an owner if the fans aren't coming to put money into the product? Do you blame them for not spending money on the team? I mean, they've
Well,
done
in
it
the
like,
Marlins case, I do, and I'll tell you why. Wayne Huizinga went out there and had this team, and I'll tell you, I hate to say this, but they did buy a championship, and they were putting 50, 60,000 people in a football stadium. So it can be done in this market if the stadium is properly located. So it's not like you haven't had owners that won't spend money. Wayne Huizinga did, and they got a championship. Jeffrey Loria was a beneficiary of Wayne Huizinga as well. And Wayne Huizinga should have had two titles when you think about the money. And he had John Henry that was an owner until he ended up moving up to Boston. So, I do believe that they draft well, but no, I think it's the owner's responsibility. They were fooled before when they brought in Mark Burley and a bunch of other guys, and Ozzie Guillen down here was a manager. With Ozzie Guillen, he couldn't keep his mouth shut. You don't talk about Castro in Miami and then get yourself crucified in a community filled with a lot of little Havana, Cuba. So you can't do that either. So I think ownership needs to spend money and prove that they're committed to winning. And this fan base is sick and tired of being fooled all the time. If I understand correctly, April Fools is only on April 1, right? It seems like they're year-round fools to begin with when they don't spend money and they expect fans to come out with a product which is not very good year in and year out.
well, I mean,
So
I
I think
definitely, yeah,
I
I
think a lot of
definitely
that falls
appreciate
on
your
the
take on
ownership,
it.
JB. I really do.
Yeah,
Hey,
I definitely appreciate your take on that. I mean, they're an exciting young team. I think that 3 games were all three, good pitching matchups. I think the Cubs this year, their starting pitching's been phenomenal. The bullpen's better than anyone expected. For some reason, they're not really hitting timely, and their lineup. They brought up the young kids this week, but they just haven't got the timely hits the way they should. But it's an exciting team, and I look at the Marlins very similar with their pitching. Their lineup's not that good. I mean, they don't really have much power in the Marlins lineup, but their pitching keeps them in games, and the same thing this year with the Cubs. So it'll be
Let me tell
interesting
you
to see.
this, JB. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when
Yeah,
I was there for that Sunday game, Justin Steele came away with a no decision. But this guy's 5 wins and no loss with 1.45 ERA. He's a heck of a pitcher. Okay, he
yeah,
really is. You got something there. You also have Dansby Swanson, good pickup in the offseason. And I like Cody Bellinger, and I also like Eric Hosmer. So those 3 guys appear to have found a home in Chicago, and hopefully they'll be able to bring their bats up to speed. And you know what? I can tell you right now, David Ross is not a bad manager. I've always been a firm believer that some of your best managers are catchers. So I think the Cubs are pretty competitive, but the Miami Marlins and Chicago Cubs always play competitive series together. It's always fun to watch both of those two teams play. It really is. We've seen a couple outcomes in the playoffs where that favored Miami that they were able to win in the postseason. But I always like to see them play at least once a year if I can. And the last few years, it's been fun to watch these two in action. But I think the biggest thing, amazingly, is the attendance figures are just astonishing. 58,116, and the Cubs couldn't even get an attendance below 31,000, and Miami tops out at 20,345. What does that tell you about the two markets?
yeah. No, it definitely does. And Scott, we definitely appreciate you taking the time. I know you had a busy night. If you could tell people where they can find you.
That'd be great. Yeah, folks, if you can kindly subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, that would be tremendously appreciated. So please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. We have a great partnership with Sideline Sports, which only figures to get better. JB and I both had the efforts on both our organizations. We have a lot of good things to look for. So their YouTube channel for Sideline Sports and the South Florida Tribune, please subscribe. We appreciate it. And it's been a fun time being on these two Cubs shows for sure. And both of these broadcasts will be inserted in the story that I've written about the Marlins and the Cubs. So these videos will be transplanted in there. We'll make sure we can get them out on social media as soon as possible.
All right,
And
Scott.
JB, appreciate you, partner.
I appreciate it. Go get some rest. It's been a long day.
I'll do that. Thank you, partner.
Thanks. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. So that was the Marlins series. Now we're going to go to our expert, the pundit's pundit, Mr. Ubbs himself, who's going to talk us through a couple of different things.
I'm looking at the picture through here and your image, and I'm looking. It looks like I'm looking at you through R2-D2. It's like, did you save me, Obi-Wan? Save me. No, but let me say this part real fast. The what he was saying before we go on to the Nats series. Let me say this. The biggest issue is you know me on Twitter. I talk about sports business about more than anyone.
Right.
And they talk about putting it not around the entertainment district. That was then, and that was a problem. It's really a problem now when you have like a soccer team in Oklahoma spending $30 million on their facilities, and yet they can't. And every single owner in the league right now is spending $5 billion on the entertainment area. That means like Malone did over for the Braves. We have the Battery over here. They've got, and I'm just saying, all those things is all an entertainment area. You couldn't do that then. You really can't do that now.
No, it's insane to think the way that, when you build a stadium, you have to have that nowadays to be competitive, to get people to come out. You need to have that entertainment district and a place to have people go. I mean, if you look at the land around Wrigley Field in Wrigleyville, what they've done, they got the bowling alley, they got the bars, they have the different restaurants, and that's a community. It wasn't something that the Cubs built. It was there, generically throughout the years.
Yeah.
But it's really what it should be like around, when you have the open land and you're building a stadium, what you need to have. Got to give people choices. It's competitive to get people's money. There's so many ways to spend your money. If you want to go to a ballpark, you want to get people to be there all day, to buy stuff, to go out to dinner. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, I love Scott, by the way, but him saying that Ross is a good manager.
You know what? I had a conversation in between shows, and I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass, as much as it kills me. Because looking this year, he has not messed with the lineup, and he's managed the bullpen a million times better. I
give it that. I give it that.
So my thought process on it, and hear me out, and tell me maybe I'm crazy. Maybe last year he was told, we're not winning. There's no way we're gonna be close for the wild card. Let's see what all these young guys can do. Let's see what these bullpen guys do. Do whatever. Put them in different situations, and let's see what we have, so we can go out and build the team.
Yeah.
Do I think that happened? I don't know, because I'm not privy to those conversations. But when I do go to Wrigley and we get credentialed, that will be the question I will ask, because he's managing completely different this year. I want to know what's different from last year to this year.
Well, I can say this: it's like I can give him all the credit in the world for not moving anybody around. I mean, we have a solid lineup and everything, but it's just a lot of the losses that they've had and stuff like that have just still been his mistakes, and a lot of them have been, and it's one of those things. Like I said before, I like him as a person, and I think we talk about catchers that they're good managers, and he brings that up. There's the potential of him being a really good manager. Do not get that wrong, and if he would stay with the Cubs and he would come that way, there is that potential because he does know the game. I just didn't like that he got this role based off of sitting next to Madden for those times. And Madden had to take 25 years to understand how to be able to get it, and you're giving this guy 2. There's just my issue. To me, just get him in the minors and let him move his way up like Snitker did in Atlanta.
Right. I can't disagree with you. Let's go to the National Series.
Sure.
So this kind of bothers me. When a team goes on the road, they got swept in Miami. They go up to Washington, who is basically a double-A team at this point. They have C.J. Abrams, who they got from San Diego in the Juan Soto deal, which is he's going to be a great player. That was a big piece to pick up, but they lost 3 out of 4 in Washington, and I'm scratching my head watching that series. Sometimes I wonder if teams go on the road and they take a week off, because they lost 6 out of 7 games on that trip. And the Marlins are a decent team. They're not a good team. And the Nationals are like a double-A team. What is going on here? Why does this happen?
The problem is the fact that it's like they're just not a wonderful road team right now. They're getting better. To me, if they keep Ross, they keep Ross. But they're a manager away from being top in that first place. We're going to have a topic on this. We're going to have a topic on this in the next couple of them. I just saw that tonight. But one of the issues with them is just the fact that it's kind of the thing that I was seeing with the Dodgers when I predicted they'd lose in the first round. You get these lulls. You get these lulls in these moments. They're going to lose more than 51 games, obviously. But you're going to get these lulls. And you're going to get this issue. And it's like They're pitching, and they still need. And I'm looking forward to the time when Hendricks comes back. It's like they're, just getting to that right now. It's just they need, as I said, Steele's really, really good. Stroman's really, really good. Smiley's doing pretty nice. They need more still.
No, I definitely agree. Let's go to our next topic. We got the young guys are coming up. They brought up Mervis. They got Morel, Amaya. So Morel comes back from AAA and hits a tying home run on the 8th a couple of days ago. What do you think Morel's going to end up doing this year? How is he going to impact the team?
Oh, regardless of anything like that, he could be our next. Hayward energy. I mean, Hayward wasn't a wonderful hitter for the team throughout his career, but he had a lot of energy on that team. He had a lot of defense. Then Morel can be that energy, and you need that. You need that young energy in the lineup. You need a young energy in the bull, like in the dugout. You need all those. You need those type of guys right there. And there are some people that are just that good; they don't have any energy. This guy's got energy.
Yeah, I mean, I love watching him play. He loves
the game. He loves the game.
He's having fun. He knows how to hit, knows how to field. He's just a fun guy, and I love the fact that they brought up the 3 young guys. I think that it gives them options. Hopefully, they play. Because you can't have them up here if they're not going to play. They got to get at bats. They got to get in the field. It does no good to leave them on the bench. So hopefully they get them all in and they figure out a way to work the lineup to where it can be the most productive, because there's something about this team. I'm not going to – listen, we all know that the Cubs farm system is stacked. They did a phenomenal job drafting and getting prospects. So it reminds me a little bit of the mid-90s Yankees. I could see where they could go on a run if they just keep doing what they're doing. This isn't the year to win the World Series, but they could challenge for a wild card now that there's 3 wild cards. I don't put that past them. And with these young kids, this is a great experience. Let them get at bats, let them play, and let's see what we have.
With Seiya Suzuki around, I can see him stealing Shohei. I can see him stealing him. I really could. And the thing about someone like Morel right now is we're watching while he doesn't have a big contract. Yep. It's fun to watch. I brought this up with one of our sideline guys a little while back, was what I wanted to see done with the Rockies. I brought this part. He and I had a conversation about it. I wanted to see them go completely and utterly all double in AAA and just watch them hustle. See who's going to hustle and who's not. Because you'll see a lot of close games, a lot of close losses. You'll see the blowouts, of course. And you'll probably see 60 wins, but you're going to see who's going to get there, and then who you can go after when you get the free agency. But that's what I was saying. Because to me, you have Rockies going 72 wins, maybe 75, 80. That's getting boring. It's like I'd rather just see the whole of the double and AAA team and just put them up there and just see who hustles.
Sometimes you got to rebuild, and sometimes you got to retool. There's 2 different things, and the Rockies, I think, just need to rebuild, to start over.
But that's what I was bringing up.
Yeah. Let's go into the next topic. This is one that infuriated me. So let's not even worry about the getting booed part first. Let's talk about how he was giving a standing ovation after everything that this man said, that Wilson Contreras said. I get he was upset. I get that, he at one point wanted to be a Cub his whole career, but then he had the nerve to say how the Cardinals, the Cardinals way is the Cardinals way and it's a great thing, blah, blah, blah. You know what? Listen, I am not giving that man a standing ovation. Once you talk bad up against my team, because nowadays in sports, you root for a uniform. There's no such thing as rooting for a player anymore. If you like a player, that's great. You can root for a particular player, but you root for your team. You understand that anybody's interchangeable. It's a business. So giving this man a standing ovation after what he said was infuriating. And then on top of that, he basically beat the Cubs on Monday, So, and to see Stroman out there clapping for him, it was disgusting. I threw up a little bit of my mouth watching that.
This isn't that world anymore, though. Like the Yankees and Red Sox, you want to go beat the crap out of. You want them to beat the crap out of.
I'm gonna get to another point in a couple of seconds, but go ahead.
Yeah. This isn't that. I'm just saying, and I understand what you're saying for sure, but it isn't that. I mean, gotta remember we're trading jerseys right now. That's what they do in these different teams. You know, whether it's football,
I have no
basketball.
problem with the jersey swap. That's after the game. This is
No,
during the game.
I'm just saying though. That's what they did not do that in those days. Is what.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
saying.
no, I know, but
They-
that to me that wouldn't bother me. You know, it's after the game. Who cares?
Sure, but it's like they're gonna see more of that clapping and doing all that kind of stuff and getting that thing. Because the biggest thing now is whether you're doing if you're doing NBA, most of them play AAU together. Then it's traveling ball for baseball, and it's all that kind of stuff. There's not a lot of rivalry anymore because you got to remember by itself, Cubs are going over to the Cardinals and Cardinals going over to the Cubs more than ever. You know, the teams that the players are. It's just there's not a rivalry the same way.
I get that, but you know, as a fan, you root for that C on there. You don't root for the bird. You know, so sorry, you ain't with us. Do your thing. It's great, but
I root for the Cubs to win as much as they had. You know what I mean? I want the Cubs to win like that.
You know, I have no problem if you're a Cubs fan, whether he's not playing the Cubs for Contreras. I get that because you like the guy, but he's playing your team. I ain't giving him a standing ovation. No way. Get out of here. And then on top of that, Nico Horner gets hurt, pulls his hamstring. So they put in Madrigal to run. Tags up, gets thrown out at the plate. The reliever is doing some unquestionable things. Yeah, I'm not one for saying you got to fight, but I'm sorry. You got to show some life there. You know, and I thought they came out flat the next night after that happened. Tonight they went off and they had a great night. The bats were great. But to me, I thought that was just, you know, and again, I'm not saying fight. You can talk. You can say something. He just turned and walked away like, it was horrible.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's I'm going to bring up one from a blast from the past, Dusty Baker. You got to remember how many fights there were with the Cardinals and the Cubs when Dusty was around. Dusty was an old bar fighter. You know, he was an old bar fighter. It's like the team takes the personality of what they've seen, you know, of their leader.
Yeah, of course. And I'm not saying to get up and swing
and Ross
either.
Is a fighter. Ross is never a fighter.
Yeah, but I'm not even to say get up and swing, but don't let him do that on your field. You know, I don't know.
Well, Ross isn't a fighter. He's a stand-up comedian. It's like you look back. I mean, Lupinello was a fighter. Dusty Baker was a fighter. You know, it's like you take from what your leader is. Then it's like the last couple of them. It's like Cubs don't get. I mean, I'm being very, very truthful. Madden, he had a temper, but I wouldn't say he was the same fighter as those two. But they still won the World Series with him.
I definitely agree. So let's move on to the Hot Cub Time Machine. Let's go back to 2018. Ian Happ launches the opening pitch for a leadoff home run at the Marlins Park with the Cubs winning 8-4.
Oh yeah, and you know who else had what was the leadoff homer? Remember the opening pitch, Dexter Fowler.
Yes,
and the most important time that you can get in your life. And I can think of another one too. 2013, the leadoff home run that became a 10-2 against the Mets. So I mean, then they've done that. So the Cubs have done this a couple times in their life. It usually leads to something when they do that. You know, it leads to playoffs. It leads to a bigger season or whatever. When they get to that thing, they usually have a bigger win, whatever. It's like it usually does. They usually start off a bang every time they have a big season.
Right. No, definitely. I agree. It's that's the one thing. That's why, remember Ricky Henderson, talk about all-time greats.
Absolutely.
You know, the man had speed. He hit for average, but he could hit leadoff homers. He obviously holds the record, if you don't know, for leadoff home runs by a major leaguer.
Absolutely.
You know, and you're not looking for power in your leadoff hitter, but you want them to be able to hit a home run. And Ricky, it just changes the game, the complexion when your leadoff guy can do that.
Well, the thing about Ian Happ, we're talking about this whatsoever, is the fact that Ian Happ really, truthfully, didn't belong there at that leadoff spot. He's good, nice work.
No, yeah,
it's like I like Nico Herner there. I've been saying, even though I've seen Suzuki like twice there ever, and I like him there. If Herner would stay hurt, I want to see Suzuki there. I like a nice contact hitter getting in that leadoff spot and lead off, especially for Dansby.
Yeah, no, I definitely like Nico leading off. I have no issues with that. I think that's the right move. I like the way the lineup is constructed with Dansby second, Hap third, Suzuki fourth. I think that's a nice top four. And then you got Bellinger fifth, which is you
I
can't
got a
complain
question with
about.
Bellinger. I have a question
Yeah.
with Bellinger. You've been right, by the way. I'm happy for him. Have you been right about this? And it's like the question I have with Bellinger is he's gone to two of the biggest markets, and absolutely, like you get. I mean, from what you get, he goes to these markets. Well, Los Angeles, everything like that, and absolutely flubs, and it completely flubs. And then now he's doing well here. And I've got a Yankees fan friend of mine that I talked to yesterday say, why didn't we go get him? I'm like, because he was 160 for a couple of different seasons.
Yep.
No way you would have asked for him. And it's
No,
like,
the Yankees,
you just have to go ahead.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, the Yankees could have sought him because of that. Because what would he have added to what they have? Now, the Cubs, who needed some veteran leadership and could take a chance for a year, because, no one's expecting the Cubs to win the World Series. Unfortunately, being in New York, the Yankee fans, no matter what, this is our year. We're going to win the World Series. It's like Dallas Cowboy fans. We're always winning the World Series. We haven't won one since 2009. So we're turning it to the Dallas Cowboys in the Bronx. But, that's why we couldn't go after Bellinger. Now, the Cubs have an interesting thing, though. They could trade him towards the trade deadline and pick up some more prospects or maybe some other key players because it's only a one-year deal.
Yeah.
Or they could see if they can extend him because, obviously being a contract year, you got to be careful. You don't want to give him a long-term deal. But at the same time, maybe you trade him and pick up some pieces because there's going to be teams that are going to look at him after what he's been doing.
Well, just telling you about this, you're nowhere near Dallas because you at least get to ALCS 1 or out every 3 years. At least you get there. It's like they can't get to the NFC title game. That's the whole point. At least you're built to like get close. They're not even close. But the biggest thing about it is Bellinger. That's one thing I'm asking about this, mind you.
Yeah.
Let's just say the Cubs do make a run this year, okay? And then he's around that. I mean, with Bellinger, I have to wonder, considering how after his MVP season, and then he was in the big city, he was in the big market, and he started flubbing bad, like 160, 180, all that. You have to wonder what he'll be like in the playoffs when there's pressure, considering he was flailing with pressure in a big market.
I don't think it's a pressure thing, though, because he won the MVP in LA.
Well,
I don't think it's pressure. I don't know whether he was hurt. Sometimes guys look at remember Chuck Knobloch all of a sudden couldn't throw the ball.
Yeah.
Sometimes things just happen in baseball, and for whatever reason, you just can't perform. Maybe a different situation, a different batting coach. Maybe he worked on something different. Also, it's a contract year. Last year was a contract year too, but this again, it's a contract year. Guys, for some reason, tend to perform in contract years. So I don't know. I mean, if he continues to do this all season, I'd be willing to go. I'd be willing to do a 3-year deal with him.
I'd be very happy. Yeah.
I wouldn't go longer than that because you have to have a history of doing well. He's been top of the game, bottom of the game, so there's no middle.
Yeah.
But I would do 3 years because you can get out of that in a reasonable amount of time.
Sure.
Let's go to the Cupper Dud. This is an interesting one. I'm gonna ask you first. So, Cupper Dud, will the Cubs go into the All-Star break leading the NL Central? They're 3.5 games behind Pittsburgh at the moment.
There's a shot. And it's big. I mean, considering how Pittsburgh started, I would have laughed. But Pittsburgh's starting to flail. And remember what I usually say about the Cardinals being around. It's too early for that. They have to make up this in the first place. You know what I'm saying? They have to make up what they're getting in the first place, so they won't be there. And Cincinnati's their usual Cincinnati self. So Cubs are more consistent than more anybody, so it can happen. It really can happen. You know, it's like now later in the year, I expect the usuals to start coming up because that's what they do. But the biggest thing about it is, I don't know how Cubs can be there.
Just think, I mean, if the bullpen continues to do what it's done, if Leiter continues to pitch the way he's pitching, if the starting staff is doing what they're doing, you got Hendricks coming back in less than a month.
Yep.
You know, and the lineup now with the young kids, including the guys they brought in, there's no question this team could be possibly in first place by the All-Star break. I mean, like I said before the season, you know, here's my thought on it. Before the season started, we talked about Milwaukee, how I thought we were a better team than Milwaukee now. Right? The Cardinals were still the favorite, and we all thought the Cardinals were going to run away with the division because they have the proven team, and that they're a dead last right now. Can they turn that around? Of course they can. I won't. I'm not counting them out, but I'm not as scared as them as I was at the beginning of the year because their manager he may be worse than Ross. He doesn't know what he's doing. He called out his player, the young guy, the first week of the season. Then he turned the Contreras mess into a national story when he pulled him from catching. So he's going to get fired at some point. He has to because he's going to lose the team.
They're waiting for Yachty to be available. They just are. It's like to be a manager. Yeah, I know they want Yachty Molina. It's like they love him there. He's a national treasure.
And once again, I'm not the guy that likes to see people lose their jobs, but this guy has created 2 huge national controversies with his team on a team that's supposed to win and challenge for the division.
Well, you don't do that. You don't do that in St. Louis because the whole point of St. Louis is it's the Midwest, legitimately down, the salt of the earth Midwest type. And it's like, and then considering that Schilt always had him around, and then everybody threw a fit and wanted him fired. It's like Schilt had him moving. And it's like, so you heard me all the time with fans. You've heard me say this. Be careful what you wish for every single time. A guy like Mike Schilt knows what he's doing in there, even if you're a little impatient with the results, he still had you around. Because I always say it can always get worse. Ali Marble is worse.
Listen, as much as I say that, we should have been booing Contreras and we shouldn't have been cheering for him, guess what? Most 149 games, he won't be playing us. It's okay to root for him. And the guy has never done anything in the game to have been spoken to or to make that a national story that we're pulling him from being the starting catcher, that he's going to be a DH. That was horrible. That's not the guy to do that to.
Well, and then you're going to lose. And you know what's going to happen, don't you? It's like you're pulling them. You're going to get it. There's going to be a kid who doesn't play a lot, who's going to be a catcher at that point. He's going to get injured, and then you're forced to put him back in. And then and then he's not going to have a lot of, confidence.
Yeah, it's just a bad move. I mean, part of being a manager is knowing how to deal with the media and dealing with your team, dealing with different personalities, different questions. You can't just go and say whatever you want to do whatever you want. It's not how you manage. You can make the lineup. That's your business. You get to decide 1 to 9, your pitching staff, taking guys out, putting them in. That's all you. But you can't go and say anything you want to the media or to your players. You have to know how to manage people and their personalities and what you can say so it doesn't become a story. You don't want to be the guy that has a national story unless it's something positive.
Go ahead.
No, it's just, you never want that. It's just bad for everybody.
Well, no, I mean, and that's the truth. And like I said, this isn't New York for one thing. This is St. Louis. They take pride in being, that city takes pride in being the salt of the earth team, the Midwest. We love our players. We love everything. I mean, you got to realize, look how many heroes they had, like David Freese.
Yeah,
and Kobe Wong and all those. These are those type of team players. You don't see them coming. Colton Wong, excuse me. You don't see them coming, and they do that because that's what St. Louis does. now you turn them into the dead last team, you're gone because they are always around.
Without a doubt, it's it's just scary. So you're saying that we're both saying it's possible.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. So where can people find you? When you're not here at Cubfidential, I hear you do a couple other things.
Oh, a couple hundred. No, no. Let's see. I am on Substack now. Pundit's Pundit. I am on. I have just turned on Patreon. Jake the Pundit. Turned on the Twitch. Jake the Pundit. Working on getting that stuff filled in. Sunday nights, the Basket Bros. Monday nights, the Pundit Views. Just had a good. As you saw that I had a few weeks ago, I had a really good interview with Andrew Petcash. Saw that type of thing. Let's see, and then I've had Troy Geary, and I've had a few others, and I'm building some bigger ones. Tuesdays off, Wednesdays, the Pundit's Pundit, the Sports Exchange with the South Florida Tribune, and the Cubfidential. Thursday nights, every once in a blue moon, depending on time, the Yin and Yang with TJ Sampson, who I had as an interview last night. And Fridays, when they need me off the bench, I will come in for the gauntlet. And then I'm also working on a couple movie ideas too.
Nice. Well, we got a busy week. We're going up to Minnesota, and then we're on the road. So hopefully we can play some better ball on the road. Minnesota's a tough AL Central team, but until next week, we'll talk more. Don't forget Sideline Sports. We're covering everything that's important in sports. Make sure you subscribe at Sideline Sports 1. I'm JB _ the program on Twitter. If you're not watching us, you're wasting your time. Make sure you're doing it. Till next week, Denzel, hit the end broadcast button. We're out.